hao, welcome to China. In order to introduce you to this country, we'll want to talk about some facts first. The official name of the country is the People's Republic of China. The capital is Beijing. Population is 1.35 billion people. The area is 3.7 million square miles. The official language is Mandarin. The Chinese government is a socialist republic ruled by the Communist Party of China. The color of the Chinese flag is red, red for the color of the blood of those who died in the Civil War and the Revolution. There are 5 stars on the flag. The big one is for the Communist Party, and the 4 ones are for the social classes. There is no official religion in China. Most widely practiced are Buddhism and Taoism. Confucianism is not an organized religion, but the basis for Chinese family and the moral life. Schools, sishu, were part of temples and family shrines. In family shrines, the front hall served as a classroom, the rear of the ceremonial hall and the wings on both sides were dormitories. These traditional Chinese academies provided a place of learning and a place of worship. Teachers and students lived together in the academy. Education emphasized character development as well as the acquisition of knowledge. Sishu were privately funded and limited to middle class and rich families. In order to understand contemporary Chinese politics, economic, and education, we need to mention some major historical events. During the ruling of Kenji Emperor in the 17th century, China not only broadened its territory through aggressive military expansion, but also became cultural power of Asia, influencing Asian literature and art. During the 2 Opium Wars of the late 19th century, China was forced to open its ports to other European countries and be exploited by them. The Opium Wars are still a strong focus of history education in China. It still serves as a reminder to all Chinese students that if you are weak, you are deemed to be exploited. The next event was the Taiping Rebellion. The Taiping were a religious anti-government group in 1850-1864 seeking to establish a utopian environment. Eventually they were put down, but approximately 20 million Chinese died during this war. This taught China the dangers of rebellious fanatics. After Japan lost the Second World War, the Communist Party, led by Mao Zedong, came to power in 1949. During his regime, the education system of China underwent major changes. Deng Xiaoping came to power after Mao Zedong's death in 1976 and started the Cultural Revolution that included modernization of agriculture, industry, defense, science, technology, and education. Because of his reforms, China became one of the world's fastest growing economies, and millions of Chinese people saw a huge rise in their standard of living. While good for the economy, Deng was ruthless against pro-democracy movements in China. During his regime, hundreds of protesters were killed in Tiananmen Square in 1989. The formal education system of China consists of 3 years of preschool, 6 years of elementary school, 6 years of secondary school, 5 years of bachelor's degree, 3 years of master's degree, and 3 years for a doctoral degree. In China's education system, compulsory education corresponds to elementary and low secondary education for a 9-year learning period. Preschool education. Kindergartens are privately owned preschools that teach children from age 3 to 6. Teachers are normally received higher pay and benefits comparable to other school types in China. Kindergartens are gaining popularity due to the population continue to grow in larger cities and the importance of learning English to meet the transition of new society and environment. Primary, elementary education starts at the age of 6. The school year is divided into 2 semesters. Students are taught moral education, Chinese language, mathematics, social studies, natural science, physical education, music, arts, and labor services. On average, a primary school student spends about 7 to 8 hours at school. Secondary education has 2 routes: academic secondary education and specialized vocational technical secondary education. Academic secondary education consists of junior 3 years and senior middle school 3 years. Many schools have evening self-study classes running from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. so students can do their homework and prepare for endless tests. On average, a secondary school student spends about 12 to 14 hours at school, if including lunchtime and evening classes. Many schools also hold extra morning classes in science and math for 3 to 4 hours on Saturdays. Junior middle school graduates wishing to continue their education take a locally administered entrance exam, on the basis of which they will have the option of continuing in an academic senior middle school or entering a vocational middle school to receive 2 to 4 years of training. Senior middle school graduates wishing to go to university must take National Higher Education Entrance Exam, Gaokao. Students are tested in Chinese language and literature, mathematics, and a foreign language, often English. The results determine which university the high school seniors will attend the following year. In 2016, there were 9.4 million students taking the National Higher Education Entrance Examination. In order to continue education abroad, students must take TOEFL and GRE. Vocational education consists of junior, senior, and secondary vocational schools, 3-4 years each, and 2 years of higher education vocational schools. There are also vocational training courses paid by the employer and managed by the Department of Education and Labor. The number of vocational schools and their funding is constantly growing. There were 27 million students in vocational schools in 2016, with funding of more than $43 million. The adult education ranges from primary education to higher education. Adult primary education includes workers' primary schools and peasants' primary school in an effort to raise literacy level in remote areas. Adult secondary education includes specialized secondary schools for adults, as well as higher education with online courses. Admission to adult higher education institutions or adult education programs at regular universities is based on the National Adult College Entrance Examination, also known as the Adult Gaokao. Applicants are expected to have writing skills on par with high school graduates at the time of the examination. However, a higher school diploma is not required for enrollment in adult higher education programs. Higher education is divided into 2 categories: universities that offer 4-year or 5-year undergraduate degrees to award academic degree qualifications, and colleges that offer 3-year diploma or certificate courses on both academic and vocational subjects. Postgraduate and doctoral programs are only offered at universities. In order to be accepted into college or university, students have to do well on their Gaokao exam. The higher education institutions are graded by the Ministry of Education to receive personnel, financial, and material resources from the government. 3 major trends of higher education are massification, marketization, and globalization. The most common language of instruction in elementary and secondary schools is Mandarin Chinese. In regions where the majority of students are ethnic minorities, instruction is offered in both Mandarin and the dominant local language. The emphasis on English education in China emerged after 1979, when the Cultural Revolution ended. Since 2001, it has been the official policy to start teaching English in grade 3 because National College Entrance Examination includes English writing and listening. In higher education institutions, English is taught as a compulsory subject. College students and white-collar workers view English as an essential tool for advancing their careers. Deng Xiaoping began to send students abroad in 1978 as part of his modernization drive, and since then, more than 2 million Chinese students have studied outside of China. Today, China is the largest supplier of students to universities in many countries. China is the largest source of foreign applicants to U.S. graduate programs. Other top countries students from China choose are Australia, Japan, UK, Canada, and South Korea. In 2016, more than 4,000 students from China studied in the United States. The traditional leading fields of studies are engineering, business and management, mathematics, and computer sciences. Over the last 5 years, the number of Chinese students enrolled in fine and applied arts programs such as architectural design, landscape design, industrial design, fashion design, and film has more than tripled. In 1999, the government removed restrictions on the private sector of higher education in an effort to propel economic growth. In 2003, the government permitted private schools to partner with public universities. China's for-profit education and training market is driven by three key factors: an emerging middle class, training for aspiring white-collar professionals, and blue-collar vocational training. The characteristics are self-funded and self-governed, typically charge double compared to public, emphasize practical skills over theory, create or change majors in response to the job market, and conduct cooperatively run programs and exchanges with their counterparts within the country and the A total of 18% of the educational budget is spent on higher education, according to UNESCO 2017. Other sources of financing of higher education in China are state appropriations, earmarked education levies, tuition costs and fees, support from school or university affiliated enterprises, donations from individual and social organizations, educational foundations, research funding through competitive mechanism, educational loans, and revenue from financial capital market operations. The globalization of Chinese economy and internalization of higher education in China is a process taking place along with the implementation of the new national policies of economic reforms and opening up to the outside world since late 1970s. In 1995 and 1998, the government launched Project 211 and 985, aiming to build 100 top key universities and partnering with world-famous universities to push forward the development of science, technology, and culture, and enhancing China's overall capacity and international competitiveness. The next initiative was Study in China plan to attract 500,000 foreign students to study in China before 2020. In 2016, there were almost 450,000 international students in China from 205 countries, with the top Korea, US, and Thailand. Students from abroad come to study Chinese language, clinical medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, economics, business administration, and the martial arts. As mentioned in the previous slide, one of the initiatives of the government was internalization of higher education, is to send students to study abroad. On the other hand, the job market is challenged when the students come back looking for a job. There are more graduates than jobs. The unemployment rates of recent graduates last year were 17% in the cities and 30% in rural areas. This is a challenge because China wants the students to come back and work in the country, but don't have enough jobs for them.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. My name is Xinghao Wang. You can also call me Karen. I'm from Shanghai, China. I studied accounting in Hofstra for 2 years.
So when did you come to the United States and how did you choose coming to Hofstra?
I came in United States 2 years before in 2015 August. I choose Hofstra is because Hofstra is a very very good university. Hofstra got high reputation on academics, and the location of Hofstra is wonderful, not far away from New York City, and not as crowded. Not like yeah, not crowded as New York City.
So how did you hear about Hofstra in China? How did
Uh,
Hofstra come about?
One of my friends used to be the Hofstra alumni, so I heard Hofstra from her.
So what was growing up in China like? Is the, how was the school? Did you have activities, sports?
Growing up in China, I think first, as most Chinese students have, we have a lot of work to do, homeworks, summer homeworks, winter homeworks. But at the same time, I also got a lot of activities to do. At Christmas, we have like charity sales for children's, for hospitals. Also, we got some exhibitions for food, for sport. Just have taken a lot of summer homeworks. My dream job is like to be a accountant. Um,
Deng Xiaoping famously said education should be oriented towards modernization, the world, and the future. As such, China should continue to move toward globalization, internationalization in all areas, including higher education. Thank you for your attention. 谢谢。
鸳鸯双栖蝶双。